Hey, it's TimesGarlic11, and after ranking the drip of all the characters in Xenoblade 2, I wanted to give my ranking on the regions. Xenoblade 2 has my favorite regions in the series, except for X, of course. X is king at everything. So I want to go over them in order from least favorite to favorite. I'm not going to be accounting for music in this because that would really skew the results. I'm only going to be ranking them based on the visual design of the area and the level design, so how interesting it is to actually explore them. Not going to be accounting for the music in all the areas, but pretty much every area has amazing music anyway. It's just some would get skewed up higher because of having the best music. So for the first three, I'm not going to be going around showing them. I'm just going to go over them quickly because there's not as much to say about them. So first off, my least favorite and the only region that I would say is actually bad in Xenoblade 2 is Temperantia. It's incredibly boring. It's just a giant open plain with very little in it, barely any landmarks. Everything looks the same in the same dull, boring gray. It's just boring to explore and boring to look at. Then, second, this one isn't bad, it's just not as good as the others. Spirit Crucible Elpis. It's just very boring inside. It's a great dungeon, but it's just visually really not that nice. Everything is all gray and covered in spider webs and stuff like that. There's only one really good looking area, and that's a secret area in there. Everything else just looks very boring. And then Indal. Where's Indal? Indal, just not much there. It looks really nice, but there's basically nothing there, so it's just not that interesting. So then for number 9 is the Cliffs of Mortha. This is a cool dungeon area. It's fun to go through. Visually, it's kind of boring, but it does have some really great views of the World Tree, since you're so close to it. It's just not a huge amount of interesting visuals in the area, so it's ranked pretty much only on its level design and views of the World Tree. Number 8 then is the Land of Mortha. Visually, this area is amazing. I absolutely love the horror aesthetic of it. It's just so creepy, like beautifully creepy. Love the apocalyptic city look of it, but in terms of level design, it's kind of boring because it's mostly just a straight line. There's very little exploration to do here. There's a few little side spots to grab some stuff, but mostly the area is just a straight path through the whole place. You can do a bit of climbing, but there's just not really a whole lot to explore. Like, just looking at the map of the area, you can see it's just kind of a line. So yeah, amazing visually, but not as great gameplay-wise. Number 7 is Argentum. Not really any exploration here to be had at all. It's just a giant town, really. But it's just so lively and colorful. It's just a fun place. Not really much to say about Argentum. It's just really fun place. You'd love being here. Number 6, Morordain. I absolutely love the steampunk look of Morordain. The city is really great. It has the coolest looking castle. And then just all the industrial stuff out here. It's all so cool looking. Morordain is just not any higher on the list for level design reasons. There's just not as much to it as some of the other regions. You have this big open plain area without much to do in it. Just kind of go straight up there. But then you do have the pretty nice dungeon style area of the old industrial district, and the okay but could be a lot less inconvenient dungeon area of the old factory. The old factory wouldn't be so bad if there was just better directions like D and 3 had, or X. Basically, 2 is the only game besides the original one that does not have really good directions. That would have solved the issues with the level design of Old Factory. The area is well designed on its own, it's just hard to navigate. But overall, Mordain's amazing area just gets brought down by the fact that some other areas have more interesting level design to them. Like, Mordain's mostly dungeon areas and then the one big central, or 2 big central plains areas with just a bunch of little dungeon-like spots to it. But visually, it's one of the best. Number 5, Letheria. Letheria is just beautiful. Everywhere you go, it's so gorgeous. And it's also good on the level design aspect because each island is like its own little area. Each island has its own whole section to explore, which is something I really like about it. And you've got 2 paths going through the whole area. That's another great thing about it. So it's just very fun to explore because you have all these different paths that lead to their own sections. Like, each island is just its own little mini region to explore with all the paths between them. Just a lot of nice stuff in Letheria, and it's so cozy and beautiful looking. And if you've seen my Animal Crossing videos, you know I especially love this area of Fonset Island up there that I was just in. Number 4, the World Tree. Space elevators, man. There's just so many different cool things inside the World Tree. Every room is its own different kind of awesome. I especially love the big server room here. I never got that, huh? Then you have the huge spaceport that's just no words. It's kind of place that leaves you speechless. The World Tree just makes you feel so tiny and insignificant with the massive scale of this place. Number 3, Tantal. So, Tantal is interesting because normally I've never been too much of a fan of snowy areas, but Tantal made me realize that's because most snowy areas are just done really boringly. Tantal is filled with so much stuff to make it interesting and not just feel like a giant field of snow. Even though the whole bottom area is mostly just a big field of snow, there's so many different things in it that it doesn't really feel like that, because each corner of the whole bowl feels distinct. Like here you have the forest area, you have Gelgamos Gate, you have the Pepito's Haunt, just a lot of different stuff that makes each area of it feel unique. And then you have the pillars up top, which are a really cool linear dungeon style area before you get into the big field area of the whole rest of it. So absolutely love Tantal. Not for the next 2 areas being even better, Tantal would be my favorite. So then number 2, Gormott. Gormott has everything. It has the amazing plains, lots of beautiful forests, giant waterfalls. You have the tree roots everywhere that take you to different areas. There's so many different places to explore that are their own little mini levels. Gormott is the peak of level design. So like if you took some of the areas in X and you just condensed it down to a smaller region, obviously X is still the best at everything, but Gormott, in terms of the main series games, is probably the second best designed area. Also really love Torgoff. Torgoff is my favorite city. Both visually and for level design, Gormot's just peak. Also one of the best views of the Titan. Out of all the regions in Xenoblade 2, this is the best one for getting a view of the Titan, because it's just right there. Most of the others, you're either inside the Titan, or you can't see as much of it, like Moradane, you can only see the head, basically. But this one, you see the whole thing from head to back. So then, the best region, you probably already figured this out halfway through. Uriah. There's just no beating Uriah. Both visually and in terms of level design, Uriah is the best. You have the whole side path there for one way to get through the area. You have the giant ocean, well, not ocean, the oceans and the ocean. You have the big lake area here if you want to go the more open route. You have some puzzles to get through it, which is nice. Not all that complicated, but there is still some stuff to do to actually get through it. And then you have the Sephronias. You can't beat the Sephronias. Every part of Uriah is just so visually stunning. I also really love how blue everything is. And it contrasts so well with having all the blue lakes and oceans and blue grass with the bright pink and orange saffronia trees. So yeah, that's my ranking of all the regions in Xenoblade 2. I'll probably do one of these for DE and 3 at some point too, or with 3, because there's a lot of sub-regions. I'll probably do more of a top 10 for 3, because it would be too much to go through every single sub-region. Anyway, tell me what your ranking for the regions is in the comments, and see you next time!